Welcome to the Everything Embodiment Podcast, where I will help you find peace, understanding, and love all within your human body, enhancing your mind-body connection through the exploration of vast ideas, concepts, and modalities, discussions all meant to propel you along your own unique spiritual journey. I'm your host, Amber Miller. Hey friends, welcome back to Everything Embodiment. I'm your host, Amber Miller, and today we are talking about something that most of us carry often without realizing it, money trauma. And I realize subconscious healing has been on a very heavy rotation recently, but it is a direct reflection of my own healing journey and just really emphasizing healing is not a one and done thing. And that's why I really love my program Release Receive, because once you have the method, you can use the same method to so many different areas of healing in your life. So today we're going to specifically talk about money. I have an upcoming live healing. It's going to be on Zoom. You're going to get a copy of the Release Receive program, and you're going to get walked through it in a guided meditation. So that way you are super clear on the method and how to use it again and again. And if you can't make the live session, everyone who signs up will get the replay within 24 hours. So that being said, this episode is about the very real, often hidden reasons why you can't seem to receive, whether that's money or even support, joy, or freedom, and how to start healing it from the root. If you've ever found yourself doing the affirmations, setting intentions, making vision boards, but still stuck in a loop of lack, this episode is for you. We're going to talk about what money trauma looks like to the subconscious mind and why it's so hard to shift through mindset alone, and how my Release Receive method can help you finally start receiving more than enough. So I only just recently discovered that my emotional and physical needs not really being met as a kid is directly related to the money issues I had as an adult. By the time I was 20, my nervous system had already lived through more than some people face in a lifetime, I swear. And I feel like I always thought I had a fairly normal childhood, but now that I'm an adult and a mom, I would say that I definitely went through a healthy fair share of trauma. As a kid, my emotional needs weren't met, not in the everyday ways that build safety and trust. I learned to stay small, stay quiet, not rock the boat. And then in fourth grade, my dad moved and did not come back. So by the time, maybe a year or so later, we realized we were abandoned. That kind of abandonment doesn't just hurt, it wires something deep into your body, a sense that love isn't safe, that people leave, that you have to be the strong one because no one's coming. And again, as a kid, I didn't really, and I don't even think my mom realized the level of trauma that inflicted, because she remarried, in a reasonable amount of time, and I had a stable, loving father figure. And overall, it was just kind of moved on that my dad, who was around until fourth grade, just basically disappeared one day. As I got older, the survival mode didn't let up. It just evolved. I was never fully safe in being able to ask my mom for basic necessities. I was 12 years old babysitting, and I would save my own money to buy myself glasses and contacts. I had to buy any extra clothes that I wanted, any shoes, any hygiene products I had to buy on my babysitter budget. And we weren't poor. I don't really know why my mom made me contribute in that way, but so I saved enough babysitting money. I got a car, and I talked about it on a previous episode. I got this car and I was so excited because I got a new job, more than babysitting money, and I got in a car accident and I had to handle the fallout completely alone. No one to walk me through it, no one to say, I've got you. So that car accident really set me back financially. And then came college 2 years later, not even 2 years later, like a year and a half later. And with it came student loans because my parents weren't able to help me, and I got myself in lots of debt from that. I signed papers I fully didn't understand because I didn't have the guidance. I had pressure. I just knew I needed to go to college to get out of the town I was in. Do I regret the loans? No, but do I wish I went to like a community college first? Yes. So I'm several tens of thousands in debt at this point. And after the first semester, I moved out of the dorms. So not only was I like racking up all the student loan debt, I was having like real life bills where I had to pay my rent and groceries and all that. So I worked full time graveyard while going to school. So at 20, I wasn't just a young adult. I was a young adult already in debt, already in chronic stress, already used to doing everything on my own. I was behind, not because I lacked ambition, but because I was carrying layers of abandonment, emotional neglect, and responsibility far too early. And when you start life like that, it doesn't just show up in your finances, it shows up in your nervous system, your relationships, your ability to receive care, healing that is more than mindset. It's somatic, it's cellular, and it's reparenting every part of you that was left to figure it out alone. So back to the topic. Your subconscious mind isn't wired for wealth, it is wired for safety. It doesn't care about your income goals or vision boards. It cares about what felt familiar when you were growing up. So if your early experiences of money were wrapped in fear, guilt, chaos, or rejection, your subconscious recorded that. And that creates deep protective beliefs like having needs is dangerous. This was so true for me. I was neglected emotionally as a child, and I learned early not to ask for help. As a teenager, I got in a car accident and I still had to handle everything alone. I put myself through college with loans and ended up massively in debt. But here's what made me realize it was deeper than just bad luck. Every time I received a windfall, and I use that lightly, a tax return, a bonus, or unexpected cash, I'd get hit with a surprise bill or emergency for almost the exact same amount. So it was like I couldn't keep the money. It would vanish just as fast as it came. And it finally clicked. My subconscious didn't feel safe having more than enough. But the thing that I got stuck on was, if money's the answer, why am I pushing it away? My logical brain couldn't figure it out. So, when you've grown up in survival, again, your subconscious doesn't care about your goals. It cares about keeping you alive. So if money was never paired with safety, love, rest, or regulation in your early life, then your body won't interpret money as a solution. It will interpret it as an activation. So in your logical mind, you believed money would fix everything, but in your actual experience, money marked the moment you stopped receiving support. For me, that's when I started babysitting. As soon as I had my own income, I was basically on my own. But even before that, when I was young and had a need, whether it was for comfort, help, attention, it didn't typically lead to connection, it would lead to upset. And she would, if it was a need, she would get overwhelmed or shut down. And so I learned very early, very deeply, having a need creates a problem and it causes rejection. So I stopped showing my needs. I shut them down. I became low maintenance, hyper independent, and overly capable. And that's what made things safer at home. So that pattern followed me into everything, including money. Because if your nervous system associates having needs with emotional danger, you will subconsciously avoid the things that bring up those needs. And money does that. So when you have money, you might finally look at what you really need. You might start hoping, you might soften. But to a nervous system that learned softness equals rejection, having money actually feels risky. Because if I admit that I need help, what if I get rejected? If I say I can't do it all, what if no one comes? If I show the real me, the one who's scared or tired, what if I get left? That's the inner conflict I've been living with. Wanting money because it would help me in my needs, but fearing money because once I had it, those needs would come to the surface and I'd be left to deal with them alone, just like I always was. So, no, I wasn't bad with money. I was just trying to survive a system that made my needs feel dangerous. So, I have since learned that my needs are sacred, that having them doesn't make me wrong, it makes me human, and that money can come without a cost to my nervous system. I hope I explained all that in a way that makes sense to you guys because it was such a light bulb for me when I put it all together. So here's another part that most people wouldn't expect. You don't have to grow up in poverty. And not that I grew up in poverty, but emotionally I was in poverty. To have money trauma. A friend of mine grew up in a financially stable home and they always had what was needed, but they got negative feedback, like, oh, you're so spoiled, you get whatever you want. So they put this pressure on themselves that they had to do it all alone so people wouldn't think that they were spoiled or got life handed to them. They felt guilty for having support and have a hard time accepting help. So now they subconsciously avoid abundance and pushes it away. So very different upbringing, same energetic imprint that it's not safe to receive. And that's the paradox. If money would solve so many problems, why do we subconsciously block it? Because our inner child doesn't see money as freedom, it sees it as a threat to love, to safety, to belonging. So, why you can't fix it with mindset alone? You cannot out journal or out affirm a trauma response. If your body and subconscious still associate money with danger, guilt, or abandonment, no amount of logic is going to override that. You'll notice it in real life. You'll undercharge or you'll overgive. You'll panic spend the moment you get a little ahead. You'll avoid your bank account. Or you'll manifest the money and it disappears just as fast. And that is definitely what I was doing. Then you beat yourself up. Like, why can't I just let this money in? I want more. But your body still says it's not safe. And that is self-protection. And this is why healing money trauma requires more than mindset. It takes subconscious and nervous system reprogramming. So again, I've talked about it a million times. My release receive method comes in. It's a gentle, structured process designed to help you identify the subconscious belief running the show. Release it from your body and energetic field, and release a new truth that your nervous system can actually hold on to. I used this process recently when we wanted to take our kids to Disneyland, and instantly old beliefs showed up. My daughter has been talking about Disney for a long time. We live in California and we haven't been, and her birthday's coming up. And earlier in the year, I had kind of convinced her, let's go to Disney instead of having a birthday party. And then my husband's work kind of went haywire and he hasn't been working in the same steady fashion that he was. So fast forward to it's almost her birthday, and I just immediately was thinking that it's irresponsible to go right now. It's a luxury to be able to go, and I just feel like it's not the most appropriate time. So instead of spiraling or shut it down, I paused and I did my release receive method, and I set the very clear intention that I would only be going if I manifested the cash up front before booking anything. And I know my human design, I know I'm a specific manifester, so I got specific on the feelings of going to Disney and what that all meant. So I did my release receive method, and then I just was very aware of my nervous system and really being mindful of keeping it regulated. And I was listening to the abundance subliminals, and I'm serious. I think I set the intention last Thursday or Friday that I really would like to manifest the amount of money it would take to go to Disney comfortably. And within literal days, extra overtime showed up at my work, and it is not unheard of to get overtime, but the amount of overtime that I was able to get this week is more than I've gotten in the last 10 years of working there. And then so then before all that, I was walking through Costco and I saw that they have the 3-day park hopper pass, and it is a really good deal. It's even better than my work discount. So I took that as like a green light, but I kept hearing like, don't buy them yet, not yet. So every overtime shift I'd get, I'd be like, okay, is today the day that I can buy the tickets? And it'd be like, no. So that brings me to the next part of the manifesting story. One of the hardest things that I've been working to heal is learning to ask for help. And it's not because I don't want it, but because, as you guys have probably put together, most of my life needing help felt very dangerous. It felt like a burden. It felt like rejection or shame. And I stopped asking for help. I became the one who figures it out, who pushes through, and who doesn't need anything. So anyway, my mother-in-law asked if we're going to Disney, and I was honest, and I thoughtfully made the decision. I almost said, yeah, of course we are. But then I stopped and I said, as long as I get enough of these overtime shifts, yes, it's looking like we will, but I have picked up so much overtime. And so I made that decision to tell her. And I was working hard, picking up the overtime, budgeting, trying to make this trip happen for my kids because I wanted the joy without the debt. And when my mother-in-law asked, I could have brushed it off like I usually do, but something in me just said, tell her the truth. So I told her. And I wasn't asking, but she responded with generosity. And she said, why don't you let me get the Costco tickets? And I almost didn't know how to respond because my body is still learning that receiving doesn't equal shame and that it's safe and that it doesn't make me less. It was such a simple moment, but for me, it was a breakthrough because I've spent decades proving I can do it all. But I'm starting to learn that I don't have to. That sometimes asking for help or even just being seen in my effort is enough to open the door to support. And that's real healing, not the money, not the tickets, but the nervous system moment where I stayed soft and I was met with love instead of rejection. So, counting the overtime I'm going to make working the 4th of July, the trip is booked and is fully aligned and fully paid for, not in a year, in less than a week. And that is what happens when you shift the energetic route. So if this story hit home, if you're tired of doing all the things and still ending up stuck, I want to invite you to join me inside Release Receive Live. This is a live guided group healing circle where I'll walk you through the exact process I use with my clients and myself to rewrite money stories at the subconscious level. You'll get access to the live Zoom circle, a guided ritual to use again and again, and the full release receive method and downloadable PDF. It's just $44. And this isn't about manifesting quick cash. It is about becoming someone who feels safe receiving, holding, and expanding into more. If your body still braces every time you think about money, if you've ever sabotaged right after a breakthrough, or if joy still feels like something you have to earn, this is for you. The link is in the show notes. I'd love to guide you through this work. And if today's episode helped you feel seen, please send it to a friend, because healing money trauma together is how we shift generational patterns for good. Thank you so much for being here. I hope to see you this weekend, and if not, I will catch you back here next week.